Good morning, Breakfast Club family. This is Mark Stevens for your host, Joe Shoup. Welcome to the Breakfast Club. Peace and blessings to you. Hope you had a great weekend. Hope you're looking forward. Well, you know what? It's not the weekend, is it? This is the first day of the week, Friday, for a lot of us. So it's a good way to start your week, and we got a great guest today that's going to help us start our week. So we want to get right to that. So good morning, Joe. Good morning, everyone. How you doing, Joe?
Good morning, Mark. Glad to be here today. Thanks for being here. We do have an exciting day today. Let me get right to this. Let me give you a little point. You know, as Einstein teaches us through his legacy, through his writings, is that, education is not really the learning of facts. It's the learning, the teaching. You're teaching yourself, teaching your mind to think. That's what it's about. It's about thinking. That's why our class is called Terminology Perception. It has to make sense. And we say it's not about scripts. It's about the ability to think, which can be learned. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today, learning. And because Bob Kuhns, let me give you a little background on Bob Kuhns so we can get right into this. First of all, this is an educator. This is an educated businessman who belongs and is an affiliate with Karatbars, number one. And number two, had enough gumption to put his ego aside and meet with us and want to take the communication class. This is a businessman of many, many, many years who said, putting this aside, can always learn something new. Let's see what it's about. And went through the class and obviously was, if not the top, one of the top people in the class. I put him right at the top of that because of his interaction, his ability to communicate, his ability to ask questions, not being afraid, and participating and helping, and works regularly with his partners on improving and getting better. He's been a businessman since the third grade, owned his own business, a third grader, opened a brick and mortar business at age 24. And all businesses were built out of necessity, and most were minimally financed. Created success out of 14 businesses while still searching for something you could do the work once and get paid in the future. Just wanted to be like everybody. Do something once and continue to get paid into the future, kind of like an author. Some of Bob's early associates were Jeff Olson, the author of The Slight Edge, or Darren Hardy, editor of Success Magazine. And Bob has written an associate manual for a company he's still associated with. His major pursuit to create systems that duplicate with duplication principles. So, without any more intro, we don't need any more intro. I think we understand who Bob is. He's an educated businessman and has offered to be here today to give us some instructions for some of you who are struggling how to learn. I think Bob will straighten that out today. So Bob Kuhns, welcome to the Breakfast Club. I'm excited to have you here and appreciate the friendship that you and I are developing as well. So over to you, my friend.
Good morning, everybody. Hopefully you can hear me well. Some of this you're going to need to take notes on, so I don't know what you have as note writing paper right now or what you have as far as ink, but I'm going to give you some reasons why you want to do this in the future. One of the things is you want to use white paper. In the past, I've used the yellow legal pads and so on, but white as a color is the most complete and pure. It's the color of perfection. So when you start writing on a white paper, you're starting with a clean beginning. You're a clean slate, and it works well because it creates an energy in the mind. Now, blue ink is the other part of this combination on the learning process, and the reason why it's blue is it creates trust and responsibility. See, a baby, the first thing they see when they come into this world and they look up and they see a color is they say blue. So when you write down something in blue, that automatically goes into your mind because it has an acceptable pathway to go in because it's something that you learn from a very early age. And so as you take notes for the future, just remember to have white paper, blue ink, because the information that you write, and I'm saying write versus use a computer, is very simply because writing you use 10,000 different things of brain transfer in your process of writing. Now, we're all in the computer age, and that's okay. I use it to create duplicatable principles. See, I want to write a letter once, and I want to push a button and send it to everybody. That's where you use the computer. When you're training your mind, even in learning the scripts, is you can go over and write down the scripts, and the process of writing the scripts on paper will additionally give you that learning process, because scripts you need to bury deep in your body, and not necessarily bury as in put to sleep, but bury as in get it into your subconscious, because later today in what we're talking about, it has to be an automatic. You don't want to think about it when you're talking to people. It has to be automatic. So part of this note writing today, I want you to take your whatever you have to write on. Take a piece of paper, and you've seen the old Ben Franklin comparison thing with a T in it. And on one side, you're going to write Y, and that's the top left-hand corner. On the right side, you're going to write do. Now, these are real simplistic words. We've all heard them before. The Y is the thinking part. The do is the action part. And as you look at this training, what we call a training balance scale, and I first heard about this about 8 years ago at a business meeting in Fairfield, California. And I said, this is interesting. Now, over the years, I've practiced it. I've learned more on it. And if you can put yourself in that system, this training thing will become much easier. Just a few months ago, I listened to a guy on a seminar, and he was very successful, up in the millions as to what he created in his business. And basically, he says, all I think about is, he says, what I want to create, what I want to come into it. And so the interviewer asked him some questions, and he says, well, he says, it's like this. He says, I think about what I want to do, and he says, I was lucky. My uncle taught me growing up. He said, but I was lucky. He says, well, Unc, how do I do this? He says, don't worry about how you do it. He says, think about it. He says, people will come to you with a sign plastered on their forehead saying, I can help. That's what will happen. And over the process of time, using that why do, somebody else did the work. All he had to do was think about it, is he was able to create this large wealth. So when you go to the training balance scale, why do you want to do something? Why do you want to build your Carrot Bars business? Why? The why is 99% of the work. See, the do side comes automatically. I know why I want to build my Carrot Bars business. I want that international gold card. That's big for me. In addition to that, I want to help others, because in all of my life, even in my other businesses, I only wanted to do things once. But see, when you have to, and most of it's been automotive, when you have to repair it over and over again, it's a pain in the neck. So I only wanted to do it once. And so when you learn this, why, and then do is the action. So now we're going to talk a little bit about action. I don't know how many of you have read the book, The New Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. He was really, in the 60s, he wrote this book originally. Now there's a new rewrite on it by an associate of his that's phenomenal. On page 106, if you happen to have the book, you can go back and read it. It talks about the 4 stages of learning. One of the things that we all do, I could talk about tying shoes, I could talk about working computers, but there's a basic human element. And you figure out if you actually equate with this, and then we'll go through the rest of the thing to explain it to you, is if you drink a lot of water before you go to sleep at night, you have a body that tells you, gives you your why on what you need to go do early that morning. It's an automatic. You don't have any choice. It tells you that. Now, as we go through the stages of learning, the first one is unconscious incompetence. I want you to visualize a baby that comes into the world, most of us are at the age where we either had children or grandchildren. And we have experienced all these steps. If you think of a baby coming into the world and learning, at first, they don't know what they don't know. Number one, they don't know what you just know to get out of bed and handle. So somebody has to handle it for them. Over a process of time and training, they learn. Then they say, oh, now I know about it. But they still can't do anything about it because they don't have control over it. That's the second stage, conscious incompetence. The first one was unconscious incompetence. See, the baby doesn't know what it doesn't know. And then it says, oh, yeah, I do know it, but I don't have the ability to control it. I haven't learned how yet. That's conscious incompetence. The third step is what we call conscious competence. The baby says, oh, yeah, I know. Now I got to handle it, and I have to work on controlling what happens to me. The fourth step is unconscious competence, and that's the level you are at. You drink too much water before you go to bed, body's automatic, unconscious competence, I got to get out of bed and handle something. That's the step that goes on and the training. And so that's kind of what we need to do with our scripts and our understanding. Learning scripts, writing scripts, I'm going to tell you, is a pain in the neck for me. I don't like it. And as I've been on before and I've talked about this, is I put it into my memory through an audio program that's called Sound Recorder on a PC. I then put that into my phone and I listen to it over and over again. Now, I need to make a confession here. If you were to ask me what's on those scripts papers, I don't know it. I don't know what's on those script papers. I couldn't repeat them to you. But if you ask me a question and put me into a circumstance where I need to respond, it comes automatically. It comes right out. I can answer it with the comfortable side of it because, see, the subconscious part of our brain is the biggest part. I buried it. I put it in there through this process of learning that I've learned so that when somebody asks me a question, I can respond appropriately. I don't have to think about it. As far as the script, I've moved them to the unconscious competence levels. I know what I have to do when I answer it. And that's the fastest way to learn the scripts. Now, some of these 4 steps take time to understand. If you want another analogy, it's like the kids that grow up with computers today. They grow up and you go to them and they punch a few buttons and, oh, here, Mom, here, Dad, okay, here, Grandpa. Here's what you got. You say, well, how'd you get there? Well, I don't know. I just got there. Bing, 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 bing. It's done. That's what you want to do with your business. You want to know your business inside and out, not to be able to be an expert, which is basically a drip under pressure, but you want to be there so you can be helpful for people, and you want your scripts to be there. As Joe has mentioned many times, he says, this is not necessarily about knowing a lot of stuff. So I've used a phrase, and some educators out there, I'm sorry, but this is really where the rubber meets the road. See, there's a difference between road knowledge, R-O-A-D knowledge, versus rote knowledge. And a good driver on a racetrack or NASCAR knows where every road is. If he's an off-road driver, he knows where the bumps are. And when he comes to that curve, he doesn't have to think about whether he's going to turn right or left or what part of the lane he needs to be in to keep his car under traction. He knows exactly where to be on that track automatically. And so then that road driver or that racer knows how to win the race because he knows the track. That's the road knowledge. Rote knowledge is he can look at a map. Well, I need to go from Sacramento to Philadelphia. And he's looking at the map, and as he travels across the United States, he has to go back and look at that map. Now, if he's been on that route, he just turns the key on the car and he's gone. And that's where we want to get with our scripts on training, and that's what Joe has tried to teach and Mark have taught on their communication class. One thing that's more on this, and you know, if you're all thinking of the baby and what they do through their 4 steps, it may not have been a good analogy. So what you need to do is on those things that aren't working for you, on the blocks that you have in your mind as far as learning, you need to encapsulate them. You know, put them all in a garbage bag. Those things that aren't working for you, and throw it in the garbage. Then the key thing is installing something new. Put in a new training. Put in something you need to learn. Putting in something that you want to be thankful for, something that's there that's good. I've learned over the last several years to think about only those positive things, because the negative will take care of itself. And basically, I flushed it. Now, as I talked about in the original thing with this person who had been very successful, and the lady asked him in the interview, she says, well, you're always a positive thinker, a positive person. And he says, yeah. He says, I am. And he says, well, why? And he says, well, I've developed a strategy and a system. And he says, when I'm working towards going to something and I want to grow, he says, I look at all the thoughts that come into my mind. And he says, basically, if the thought promotes me, I dwell on it. If the thought slows me down or stops me, I say, you know, I really don't need that thought today or ever. And he says, I put it out of my mind. He says, so everything that I do becomes a positive effect. And that's where you want to get with your scripts, with your training. And then life becomes very easy, because once that you learn these 4 steps, and on each step, it is now an automatic. You have looked at people who have done things. Well, how'd they do that? They went through all these 4 steps. They've admitted first that they don't know what they don't know. When I was first asked to look at the communication class, I didn't know what it was about. I didn't know what I didn't know. Then as I went through the scripts, there was a consciousness of what I didn't know. Now, I knew that I didn't know the scripts, and there was certain wording in there that was advantageous to talking to people. Then it became, okay, well, I have a very busy schedule. I do a lot of stuff. I happen to enjoy that way of life, but not everybody does. Anyway, I have a very busy schedule, so my only way was to take and read the scripts once into my computer, copy it, put it into my phone, plug in my earphones, put my phone in my pocket, and walk around and do everything else that I had to do while that was getting into my ears. I mean, I'm thinking about doing the lawn, I'm thinking about doing dishes, I'm thinking about working on a car. All that's being done while I have these words that I've written plugged into my head. And that's how I learned the scripts. The key thing is I was teaching myself, because it was my voice that was on the tape recording, and it went right in just like the blue ink when you take your notes. See, it was an acceptable pattern because I was talking to myself. Your body will accept that. And that's how I learned the scripts. From that point, now I've reached the level of unconscious competence. And, you know, like I said, I don't know the scripts like some of you know them. Well, what's he say on this paragraph? I don't know it. However, if you ask me a question and I'm in a conversation, that stuff comes automatically in my mind. I know exactly how to answer that question, relaxed, comfortable, and you can throw anything you want to at me. I'm okay with it. Because, see, I know that now I know. And that's basically, there's a whole lot more to say about this. What I basically taught you this morning in a very short amount of time is just scratching the surface. And as you learn these processes, however long it takes, because there's no, one of the other key things I've learned is there's no deadline. See, when you talk about a child, you don't say, hey, you got 6 months to get up and walk, kid, or I'm done with you. I mean, that isn't something you do. So why do we do that to ourselves as adults? Now, I picked up some more voice in here. So, but why do we do that to ourselves as adults? Basically, we need to say, hey, I want to learn this, I want to do this, and I'm going to do whatever I have to take to get there, because just like the baby, eventually it learns to walk. Joe, Mark, it's yours.
Yeah, Bob. Hey, listen, what a great, condensed, impactful training and experience this was for me. Thank you. I really, really appreciate it. I need to thank someone else as well. I believe that your partner is Sherry Young. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you, Sherry, for bringing Bob to us. And we will have Bob back. We will continue on with the process of learning, because that's what we're about. AdTech Worldwide is a learning platform. It's a company that that we've developed to teach people. It's funny that you said one thing here, and you said it several times about not knowing that you don't know. I'm a some people will say, oh, great, but others may not know who it is or say, really? But I am a fan of Werner Erhard, and he has a lot of great teachings. I've been studying and doing stuff back in the early 1980s. And one of the things he says in several tapes that he has, he says, it's really a shame when one doesn't know something. But when they don't know that they don't know, then it can be very tragic. And I heard you say that this morning, not knowing that you don't know. And it's really important to understand that particular statement and phrase. And so, look, I really appreciate this. I'm excited. I'm excited about you teaching people how to learn here. So thanks for being here. So we will continue this on. We will continue this on. Mark, are you on microphone there?
Yeah, I'm on the mic now. Now, Bob, thank you very much. I find it very fascinating, the technique that you have, because I've never heard of anything like this. Unconscious incompetence, conscious incompetence, conscious competence, unconscious competence, and that's what we want everyone to have, is competence, but the right type of competence. And I'm very looking forward to you continuing this, because I really want to hear you delve into this in more detail, because I find it a fascinating technique, if I'm using the right word or not. But it's like a new learning process, and it's I'm always up for learning something new, because I always use the term of always keeping my patent office open, which means that I'll listen to anybody and everybody, even to a kid. And you've been saying things about kids a lot this morning, and because they can teach you a lot and everything, and so I'm like that when it comes to learning something new, like a kid. Well, tell me what you got. Show me what you got. If it's going to make me more competent, then I definitely want to know it, because again, without keeping your patent office open, we wouldn't have rocket ships going to the moon, a lot of inventions that we have. So you have to keep your mind open. And these 4 key things that you talked about this morning, I'm very excited about to listen to that more in the future. So I thank you very much for what you've shared with us this morning. And I will be switching. I'm one of those ones with a yellow pad, so I will be switching from a white pad from a yellow pad to a white pad with blue ink, because you didn't say that just for nothing, and what you said made a lot of sense. I've always preferred to write with black ink and on a yellow pad, but after what I heard this morning, I'm open to change. So thank you very much for that. And
I also want to say and thank Bob for he's been instrumental in this past week or so, or getting the videos uploaded into our funnels, our marketing funnels, and he's been helping with that and been instrumental in helping us get that organized. So I appreciate that as well. So Bob, any final words, and then we'll just close for the day and start our week off, because today, as Mark said, this is the beginning of the week. This is not the end to just give up. We're now planning for the next day, the next work day, and for me, that's today, tonight, tomorrow afternoon. I physically don't attend things tomorrow, business-wise, but I work on the weekends on improving things and then getting ready for Monday morning, and we're pretty excited. We'll be talking about organization on Monday as well. We definitely have a need to be talking about organization. So, Bob, any final words here? Just some words of wisdom.
Well, one final word, and I know that we all get serious. We all get super serious, and nothing works when you're super serious. And that's going to be a contradiction to a lot of what you've heard. Focus on getting the project done, focus on this, focus on that, and it's an external force driving you. Your force that drives you must come from the internal. It has to, because the external never works. It has to come from inside you. So one of the things that is in Maxwell Maltz's book is the fact that when they took somebody who didn't have any pressure and allowed them to play or work on a new project, and they learned so much faster, it became so much more automatic, so that when they were put under a pressure situation, just like I noticed on the chat here with one of the persons noted, and it said the answer was automatic. So you have to release this pressure of perfection, because you aren't perfect anyway. I don't care who you think you are. It's just, I'm not perfect. Let me tell you, there's a lot of stuff that I do wrong, but it's a process of learning. See, I know that I can get better. And a curious part on this was there's two actors, Burt Reynolds, and you know both of them, and Clint Eastwood. In the early years when they first auditioned as a movie actor, Burt Reynolds came out and Clint Eastwood says, man, he says, you are really ugly, you're getting bald, and he says, yeah, he says, Clint, he says, but I can put on a wig. And he says, I can do other things. He says, what are you going to do with your Adam's apple? And that was the joke that Clint and Burt Reynolds talked about for years. So we're all in a process of growing. And as Joe said, never stop growing. Maxwell Maltz talks about never allow your mind to go to sleep. Work on it, work on it, work on it. But do it under a relaxed situation, because you'll learn much faster.
Okay, thanks, Bob. I wanted to also remind people on Monday, one of the things we'll be covering is called Fast Start. Now, for most people, that sounds like a good thing. Let's get off to a fast start. But we're going to talk about why in the past your mentors and upline have, talked so much about fast start, getting off to a fast start and hurrying up and getting this and doing that. We're going to tell you why that was done and why it's not effective when you're trying to do what Bob talked about today. Learn. Nothing wrong with a fast start if you get off to it in the right way. But the teachings of the fast start in the past have never been effective. Very, very rarely have they been effective. So we're going to teach you the right way to get off to a fast start. So with that, Mark, over to you, buddy, and hope everybody has a good day. I want to thank the people that attend here also all the time, and those who go to the recordings and listen. We can see that as well. So we're excited that, we see a lot of people, not just attend here, but we can see the viewers today, but we see the people that go in, and we watch and monitor that all the time. People that are listening to this, and that tells us who really wants to learn. That's how we select people and look in. We see the educators that are there. You know what the educators do? They go learn more. That's what educators do, and that's why we asked Bob to be here today, was because he's not just a teacher and a leader. He's also a student, and we're excited about that. I'm really happy to get to know you, Bob. It's been a pleasure over the last couple of months, and so with that, Mark, over to you, and have a great day, everybody. Get your week started properly, get moving, and let's go.
Okay, well, very shortly after we close out, the recording will be available, and you may want to go back through, because I find it very interesting. And the last part that you just said, Bob, it made me start thinking about, like I always say, you do it, but you have fun with it. And so you can have fun and still do it the right way the same time, and you don't have to be stressed and pressured, because nobody really likes to work under those conditions and everything. So again, I'm looking very forward to the next time to get more clarification on the things that you're teaching us. So with that being said, family, peace and blessings to you. Go out, make it a great day. Go out, share what you learned today. You can share it if you get it. You can share it. Share it with somebody to touch their career, their family, city, country, state. And let's work. Let's go to work, and let's do what we need to do, that we can all move forward together, build our businesses, have fun, and enjoy life with that financial freedom and that time freedom. So with that being said, this is Mark Stevens for our host, Joe Shoup. Say, go out, make it a great day. Peace and blessings to you, and we will see you back here on Monday on The Breakfast Club. Make it a great day, everybody. Have a great weekend.